Hey everyone, I'm back with another update. In this episode, I'll cover the end of the Congo-Rwanda war, narco-terrorist strikes, immigration-related news, redistricting, auto production updates, Trump nominees, election integrity updates, the Department of Health and Human Services, the January 6th pipe bomb suspect, the FIFA World Cup Draw, and Christmas-related news. Of course, I'll end with the noteworthy tidbits. President Trump took part in formally ending the Congo-Rwanda war, which lasted for about 30 years. The State Department placed Trump's name on the former U.S. Institute of Peace building just in time for the event. In the newly named Donald J. Trump Institute of Peace building, Trump ended the war with the stroke of a pen and also signed a massive critical minerals deal. The president of Rwanda spoke about this moment, saying, "No one asked Trump to take up this task. Our region is far from the headlands. But when the president saw the opportunity to contribute to peace, he immediately took it." On to news surrounding the narco-terrorist strikes. President Trump confirmed that land strikes on narco-terrorists will start very soon, and Senators Rand Paul, Chuck Schumer, Adam Schiff, and others filed to block Trump from engaging in hostilities against Venezuela. In 24 hours, the Trump administration secured the seizure of 20,000 kilos of cocaine destined for the United States, and Trump announced that he's dealing with the poisoning of America. Trump confirmed that what's going on with Venezuela isn't just about Maduro, it's also about kicking Russia and China out of our hemisphere after they've been encroaching on the United States for years. Senator Tammy Duckworth demanded War Secretary Pete Hegseth render aid to narco-terrorists rather than take them out with their boats, but Duckworth also admitted that she's never actually seen footage of the narco strikes. Congressman Sri Tanidar filed to impeach War Secretary Pete Hegseth, and Senator John Kennedy pointed out that, in his words, "Narco-terrorists are killing our children, and President Trump and Republicans are trying to stop them. But for some reason, that's made some of my Democratic colleagues act like Jack Nicholson in The Shining." Secretary Hegseth ordered a strike on another narco-terrorist boat in the Eastern Pacific, and he made it clear he won't back down from this. Last for this topic, an Obama DEA official has been criminally indicted for helping the cartels, agreeing to launder $12 million. Let's switch to immigration-related news. The Department of Homeland Security officially launched a massive illegal alien enforcement operation in New Orleans called Operation Catahoula Crunch, and large amounts of agents stormed the region. Border Commander Greg Bovino was spotted on the ground rallying his men, and the operation is well underway. Bovino has had many supporters approach him, but of course, there are some protesters too. Anti-ICE protesters stormed into the New Orleans council meeting, and they were hauled out by police. Bovino confirmed that Louisiana police have been assisting with illegal alien arrests, and they've had to guard federal agents from protesters while they've made arrests. It didn't take long before agents began arresting illegal alien rapists, sex offenders, and kidnappers. In Minnesota, federal agents have started arresting and deporting Somalis after their fraud schemes were uncovered, and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey urged residents to call 911 on ICE agents. Tony Terrell Robinson, another fraudster, was caught stealing over $1 million through an NGO, and he has a criminal record for fraud already. Several other Somalis that have been detained in this operation have criminal records including sexual abuse, some with acts against a minor, rape, and domestic violence. Representative Tom Emmer pointed out that 80% of the crimes committed in the Twin Cities are committed by Somalis, and the FBI has been investigating these Somali gangs for months now. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison are being investigated by Congress for allowing fraud to happen, and on a related note, Mike Lindell filed paperwork to run for governor of Minnesota, challenging Walz. Congressman Tim Burchett asked President Trump to cut off all NGO funding until they can figure out where all the money is going, and Representative Wesley Hunt is pushing for an investigation into Representative Ilhan Omar of Somalia for insider knowledge of massive fraud in Minnesota, on top of marrying her brother. There are allegations that Omar is involved in these schemes, considering her net worth has ballooned by over 46,000%. The restaurant owner who held Omar's 2018 election victory party was convicted of fraud, and newly unveiled photos show Ilhan Omar and Tim Walz posing and smiling with Somali migrants who have been arrested for fraud. Stephen Miller revealed a massive investigation has been launched into Minnesota Governor Tim Walz for being complicit in Somali fraud, and the fraud found in these schemes has risen from $1 billion and may now be near $8 billion. The Small Business Administration is investigating the entire state of Minnesota because it appears the fraud ring was perpetrated across all types of government assistance, and the SBA exposed the Biden administration was likely complicit in the Somali fraud. Reportedly, when he began prosecuting fraud cases in 2022, Biden's Attorney General Merrick Garland called the Minnesota fraud scheme the country's largest pandemic relief fraud scheme. Minnesota will lose transportation funding unless all CDL licenses illegally issued to illegal aliens are revoked, which totals to 33% of Minnesota CDLs, and Texas agents found 23 illegal aliens packed inside the sleeping area of a semi-truck that was being driven by someone without a CDL. State Secretary Marco Rubio and the Trump administration are restricting visas from Nigeria due to the mass extermination and persecution of Christians there, and Maduro agreed to resume accepting illegal alien deportation flights from America to Venezuela. California Governor Gavin Newsom was caught protecting an illegal alien who murdered an 11-year-old child, refusing to honor the ICE detainer, and the Trump administration has informed Los Angeles County that their ban on ICE agents wearing masks is null and void. A third Afghan that came into America under Biden, who is reportedly an ISIS-K supporter, was arrested by ICE, and ICE arrested a Harvard professor after he refused to self-deport. The professor had reportedly fired a BB gun outside a Boston synagogue before Yom Kippur, and as a result, his visa was revoked. Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal filed legislation to ban DHS from detaining millions of illegals, and the Supreme Court has agreed to rule on if President Trump has the constitutional authority to end birthright citizenship for illegal aliens. HUD Secretary Scott Turner confirmed that Democrats gave government-backed mortgages to illegal aliens, harming American citizens in need, and sadly, there was another stabbing in Charlotte, North Carolina. This time it was by an illegal immigrant from Honduras on the Lynx Blue Line Light Trail. The illegal had been deported 2 times already and has a lengthy criminal history. Luckily, the victim survived and is in a stable but critical condition. President Trump confirmed that Congresswoman Grijalva lied about being pepper sprayed in the face by ICE after joining an anti-ICE riot, and a fake news operation was busted after the Democrats claimed federal agents ran over an illegal alien's foot. Apparently, that was all a lie as well, and the illegal alien simply threw a fit after being restrained. Border Czar Tom Homan confirmed that over 62,000 children have been found that were brought across the border during Biden's term, and he said that some of these children were in sex trafficking when we found them. Some were in forced labor. I can't even discuss some of the mistreatment. It's been confirmed that in just 11 months, 2.2 million illegals have been exiled from the United States, while border numbers continue to decline, with 0 illegals crossing the border in 7 straight months. Shifting to redistricting. Virginia Democrats are considering drawing a new 2026 congressional map that would add 4 blue seats, and the Florida House held a redistricting meeting discussing a new map that would add 3 to 5 red seats for the 2026 midterms. Republicans in Florida are doing their best to be sure the new map doesn't get held up in court, so it will be examined by the Redistricting Committee. The Supreme Court upheld Texas' new 2026 congressional map, and as a result, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett was removed from her district. The Indiana House passed their new 2026 congressional map, which adds 2 Republican seats for the midterms, and now it heads to the Indiana Senate. Let's move on to auto production updates. President Trump reversed Biden-era vehicle fuel efficiency regulations, saving Americans up to $109 billion and over $1,000 per car for the consumer because those policies forced automakers to build cars using expensive technology, driving up prices. Trump said that U.S. auto production fell by 5% under Biden, but has increased by 10% so far this year, and he mentioned that Ford has announced a $5 billion investment in Kentucky and Michigan. Last for this topic, Trump authorized the approval needed to search the ability of Japan to build more cars for Americans, and this includes their tiny cars, which can be propelled by gas, electric, or hybrid. Switching to Trump nominees. The U.S. Senate confirmed judicial nominees Matthew Orso and Susan Rodriguez, both to the Western District of North Carolina, and Senate Majority Leader John Thune moved to quickly proceed with more judicial nominees, setting up to confirm more this week. The Senate GOP filed to bulk confirm 97 Trump nominees all at once, and NASA nominee Jared Isaacman did well in his Senate confirmation hearing, vowing to help America pass its rival in space exploration. Isaacman made an interesting point that America is set to launch NASA astronauts around the world in just a matter of months. This is a challenging endeavor that requires full-time leadership. Let's shift to election integrity updates. Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon is suing 14 states for hiding their voter rolls, potentially covering up voter fraud, and 26 states will soon be forced to clean up their voter rolls of dead people, non citizens, and triple registrars. 4 states complied voluntarily to the cleanup. Dillon found that, after checking 47.5 million voter records, over 260,000 dead people and thousands of non citizens or illegals are registered to vote in the United States, and she said the Department of Justice is partnering with local law enforcement where appropriate to prosecute people who have unlawfully voted in our elections. The state of Florida secured an agreement with the Department of Homeland Security in which the DHS now offers the SAVE database at no cost and adds Social Security number search functionality with 48-hour response times and bulk request processing. All 50 states can participate in this program, which gives easier access to purging illegal voters from the voter rolls. Last for this topic, a court ruled Michigan's Secretary of State cannot count mail-in ballots with missing or invalid identifying numbers. Moving on to updates from the Health and Human Services Department. HHS Secretary RFK Jr. is investigating an incident where a Midwestern school gave a federally funded vaccine to a child despite a legal exemption, and the FDA is requiring that, to be put on the market, the flu vaccine must be proven effective. The HHS Vaccine Committee voted to end the recommendation that all American babies get the hepatitis B vaccine the day they're born, with the committee only recommending receiving the vaccine on the day of birth if the mother tests positive or if their infection status is unknown. For all other babies, it's recommended they receive the vaccine no sooner than at 2 months of age. Now, for those that may be freaking out, you can still have your baby injected with this vaccine on the day of birth if you so choose, but considering the way hepatitis B is spread, I'm not sure why you'd be in such a tizzy about waiting 2 months. President Trump signed a presidential memorandum directing the HHS to fast-track a comprehensive evaluation of vaccine schedules from other countries and to better align with the U.S. vaccine schedule so that, in his words, it is finally rooted in the gold standard of science and common sense. Trump pointed out that the American childhood vaccine schedule requiring 72 jabs for perfectly healthy babies is far more than any other country in the world and far more than necessary. Last for this topic, James O'Keefe caught an NIH director admitting they ripped down and threw away federal portraits of President Trump, Vice President Vance, HHS Secretary Kennedy, and NIH Director Bhattacharya, and the NIH is now investigating this incident. Let's switch to the January 6th pipe bomb suspect. The FBI arrested a suspect they believe planted the pipe bombs near the DNC and RNC on January 5, 2021, with the arrest taking place in Virginia. The suspect is a male by the name of Brian Cole, and the FBI did a complete search of his home and vehicles. According to Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel, evidence leading to his arrest was sitting around collecting dust under the Biden administration, and the suspect could have been arrested years ago. There was no new tip, no new evidence, and Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino said that the neglected evidence is forensic, but couldn't give any more specifics. Apparently, the Biden FBI claimed the data they had was corrupt, blaming Cole's cell phone provider for providing corrupt data, resulting in the Biden FBI being unable to track Cole's phone. Cole is talking to federal investigators and admitted to planting the bombs. He appeared in federal court, faces up to 20 years in prison, and is charged with transporting an explosive device and attempted malicious destruction by means of explosive materials, and more charges could be coming. Shifting to the FIFA World Cup Draw. On the 5th, the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts in Washington, D.C. hosted the final draw for the FIFA World Cup 2026. This was a landmark event for the tournament co-hosted by Canada, Mexico, and the United States, the first 48-team World Cup in history, expanding from the traditional 32 teams. The draw determined the group stage matchups for the 48 participating teams, revealing fixtures across 16 host cities, with 2 in Canada, 3 in Mexico, and 11 in the U.S. It marked a major milestone on the road to the tournament, scheduled for June to July of 2026. The event was co-hosted by supermodel and TV personality Heidi Klum, comedian and actor Kevin Hart, and actor Danny Ramirez. Andrea Bocelli performed Nissan Dorma from Turandot, earning widespread acclaim for his operatic rendition. The Village People delivered a high-energy performance of YMCA, during which President Trump notably danced. FIFA revealed and awarded its inaugural FIFA Peace Prize to President Trump, presented by FIFA President Gianni Infantino. The award cited Trump's actions to help end conflicts around the globe, tying to FIFA's theme of soccer promoting peace. Trump attended with First Lady Melania and daughter Tiffany. Representatives from host nations joined. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum and Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney participated in the draw and onstage segments. The event transformed the historic apolitical Kennedy Center, America's national cultural hub and a memorial to President John F. Kennedy, into a global soccer epicenter, but not without drama. This all started from Trump's urging during White House discussions with Infantino amid renovations and programming shifts at the center under Trump appointee Richard Grinnell. Critics raised concerns over polarization, including Trump's threats to relocate matches from unsafe Democratic-led host cities due to crime, which he reiterated on the red carpet. Arts advocates worried about the nonprofit venue's shift toward revenue-driven, high-profile events. Despite tensions, the draw was hailed as a once-in-a-lifetime celebration, with fan lotteries offering VIP access from host cities. The ceremony kicked off the hype for the 2026 tournament, emphasizing unity through sport while highlighting geopolitical undercurrents. Let's move on to Christmas-related news. The Trumps participated in the national tree lighting ceremony on the Ellipse, and First Lady Melania read "How Does Santa Go Down the Chimney?" to children at the Children's National Hospital. In a heartwarming moment, a little girl ran up to Melania and hugged her after Melania finished reading. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum slashed Christmas tree permit fees by nearly 100% to help make Christmas affordable again. This policy also reduces firewood permit fees, with the fees for both being reduced to $1 per tree or firewood cord, resulting in a savings of around $388 for each American family. New cutting tree areas have also been opened, and household limits have been increased to 3 Christmas trees and 10 cords of firewood. Now it's time for the Noteworthy Tidbits, which are brought to you today by Zevo Life. Let me tell you about them quick. Looking for a game-changing way to improve your health? Zevo Life is the world's most nutrient-dense whole plant, packed with over 50% plant protein, essential amino acids, fiber, and antioxidants. Harnessing the best nature has to offer, Zevo Life nourishes your body while driving your performance, vitality, and overall well-being. Each serving is a concentrated source of clean, well-balanced nutrition designed to support modern lifestyles, and just 1 teaspoon a day supports your gut, boosts energy, and promotes healthier skin and hair. It's no wonder that it's receiving rave 5-star reviews. Step into a healthier future with a 30% discount and a 30-day risk-free guarantee by visiting zivo.life and using my promo code. To support my show and to receive 30% off your entire order, enter in my promo code JADE, that's JADE, at checkout. All right, let's get back to the tidbits. President Trump endorsed Representatives Greg Goldman, Nathaniel Morin, Michael Cloud, Randy Weber, and John Judge Carter for re-election, and he endorsed Trevor Neals, who is running to represent Texas' 22nd Congressional District. Matt Van Epps was sworn into the House of Representatives. It was announced that Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf has no blood clots and can open both eyes after being shot by an Afghan in D.C., and his family visited President Trump at the White House. Trump ordered American flags to be flown at half-staff for fallen Army Specialist Sarah Beckstrom, saying, "I want to pay my highest respects to Sarah, who is watching from heaven, and Andrew Wolf is hopefully getting better." Indiana State Representative Andrew Ireland proposed a constitutional amendment to let judges and prosecutors be impeached if they let violent criminals run loose. Following immense pressure from President Trump, the European Union is banning Russian gas imports, which will help to stop Russia from fighting Ukraine. Senator Joni Ernst demanded the passage of legislation that bans SNAP from being used at fast food restaurants, saying, "We want to make sure that those hungry families use those dollars on nutrient-right foods." Senator Josh Hawley is pushing for the passage of legislation that would abolish taxes on health care. The Signalgate Inspector General report was released, and it found that no classified information was leaked, totally exonerating War Secretary Hegseth. Judge Janine Pirro announced a violent Haitian gang leader in Washington, D.C. received life in prison for taking 16 American Christian missionaries hostage. Jack Smith was subpoenaed for weaponizing the government against Republicans, with Congressman Jim Jordan directing Smith to testify on December 17th. On a related note, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik successfully added a provision to the National Defense Authorization Act that requires the FBI to alert Congress if they open counterintelligence investigations into presidential and federal candidates. Congressman Tim Burchett is running for House DOJ Committee Chairman. President Trump pardoned Democrat Texas Congressman Harry Queller and his wife Imelda, saying Sleepy Joe went after the congressman and even the congressman's wonderful wife Imelda simply for speaking the truth. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick revealed that after listening to the entire Supreme Court case on Trump's tariffs, he believes they will uphold the tariffs. President Trump once again called for Tina Peters to be freed. While speaking at a New York Times event, actress Halle Berry called out California Governor Gavin Newsom for vetoing a menopause bill 2 years in a row. Berry pointed out that luckily he won't be their governor forever, and she said, with the way he's overlooked women, half the population, by devaluing us in midlife, he probably should not be our next president either. An appeals court struck down the leftist judge who blocked President Trump's National Guard deployment to Washington, D.C., with the order to pull troops out by December 11th being paused. The chief financial officer of Florida found $344 million in waste, fraud, and abuse while auditing Palm Beach County. The Virginia federal grand jury rejected to re-indict Letitia James on possible mortgage fraud. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis called on the GOP Congress to put mega policies to a vote daily, making Democrats to go on record opposing popular issues. DeSantis also pointed out the lack of action from Congress since about August. The White House is expecting a 4% economic growth at the start of 2026. The Epstein documents in Florida were unsealed thanks to President Trump signing the Epstein Files Transparency Act into law. Joe Biden received an LGBTQ award for running the most inclusive administration in U.S. history. Nature, a major scientific journal, retracted a climate change study claiming devastating impacts were coming. President Trump presented several icons with Kennedy Center honors medals in the Oval Office. Some of those receiving awards include George Strait, the members of KISS, and Sylvester Stallone. Trump hosted the Kennedy Center Honors Dinner, which has never been done before, and according to Fox, the Trump-led Kennedy Center has almost doubled its fundraising from the Biden era, raising $23 million for its 48th celebration. Someone drove a vehicle up to Tim Pool's property and opened fire, but luckily no one was hurt. Pool announced that their security team is reviewing the incident and will be relaying the report to the appropriate law enforcement. President Trump launched an investigation into potential fraud with companies that received DEI contracts from the Small Business Administration, and SBA Administrator Kelly Loeffler alerted the administration that minority contracts were becoming a pass-through vehicle for rampant abuse and fraud. President Trump declared that Marco Rubio will go down as the greatest Secretary of State in the history of our country. Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon launched a Department of Justice civil rights investigation into Kent State University after it was reported that the university banned white people from auditioning for solos, claiming it would be cultural appropriation. President Trump took to Truth Social to encourage people from Miami, Florida, to go out and vote for Gonzalez in the mayoral race. Nigeria secured the release of about 100 Christian school children that were kidnapped from St. Mary's School. Lastly, President Trump revealed that Ukrainian President Zelensky has not yet read the peace plan for Ukraine and Russia. That's all I have for today. I'll be back with another update soon. Until then, please like, subscribe, and share this podcast, and follow me on Instagram and X at Shades of Jade Pod. Thank you for listening and have a great day.